Well, this is what's crazy. There's a nurse just checking all the bags and like moving stuff around by the like front of the bed. And I looked at him and I went, "Hey, Dad." And he woke up.
Conscious.
Like he woke up.
Wow.
And he like looked over at me. And he's like, "No." No, I'm just kidding. No, but he did. He woke up and the nurse was like, "Oh, you're awake. Good morning." You know, just being very nurse-like. And she's like, "Well, he must be excited to see you." Because obviously she's been running in and out. The man's just in a coma, fucking, you know. And he just like looked at me and then I was like, and he kind of like had teary eyes, but also it's like you have a thing of, I don't know how much is like, you know. And I was like, do you know who I am? And he like nodded his head and I was like, okay. And then I like walked up to him and the nurse was just like, "Oh, this is great. Oh, it's so good that you're here." And I was like, okay.
And she has no idea the dynamic.
No idea.
Yeah.
I'm just his daughter. Like, you know, she doesn't know, you know, as far as she knows, it's just, of course his daughter would be here. And I like walk on the side of the bed and he like, because she was kind of on one side, so I went to like stand on the other and he like followed me with his eyes. Felt like he's like started to choke on the machine, which was really kind of uncomfortable to watch. And she's like, the nurse is like, "Hey, John, you know, you're on a ventilator right now because you're having some trouble with your lungs, so you're not able to talk." So they had to kind of like, because you're so like dazed, I guess they have to keep like reminding you that like what's going on and like that'll happen if he's like trying to talk. And so I just kind of like held his hand and I was like, "Hey, it's okay." Like I just was like, "Everything's okay." And then I said, "I'm sorry." And I was like, "God damn it." But like I am, but I was just like, and he just like nodded his head and I was like, can I give you a hug? And he like nodded his head and I gave him a hug. And like, I don't know, I like came back up and I just sort of like was having this very awkward, like one-way conversation sort of just being like, I was just sort of like dumping my forgiveness on him. Honestly, I was just like, "Hey, sorry, you know, like everything's okay. Like I know that like things have been weird, but like I'm here and I love you. Everything's okay." Like,
does that frustrate you in many ways that you had to be the one to say sorry?
No, it was just like, I can't remember the exact back and forth, but like, I got the sense from whatever we were saying that like he was also trying to be like, "I'm sorry," you know?
Like that's, I mean, you were there and it's your story, but the way you told it, I felt as if if his nod was him saying sorry.
Yeah.
Is that what you felt?
Yeah. And like, he was really teary-eyed and god damn, like if you would told me to like describe what my grandparents looked like his parents before this, I would have been like, they were old people. My grandpa was kind of thin. My grandma was like a little heavy-set woman with a fake bun of hair and the sweetest person on earth. And my grandpa would just sometimes disown people and go quiet. He was a war veteran. I don't know what to tell you. That's what he's just like, "You're out of my life," and then just disappear. But like, which, you know, when you think about the fact that that's his father, but like, I just like, he looked so much like my grandparents in that moment. Like I was like, those are my grandpa's eyes.
Yeah,
Like,
it's strange.
Yeah. He sort of like stayed awake for a while, like nodding with me and like talking, and like he would nod off a little and like fall asleep. And I hung out all day. Like I just sat there and when he'd wake up, I'd like get up and how you doing? Just so I started repeating like the nurse thing of like, "You're in the hospital, but everything's okay," which must have been like a mind fuck for him for like.
What about you?
Yeah. I mean, I was just like, damn, my dad is dying.
Okay, so that's a point that I want to kind of like tap into. So what was that process when you're sitting there? What are you working through your brain right now? Do you feel sad? Are you grieving? Are you crying?
I felt sad, and then I was also like, yeah, I think I like headed out to this trip like, well, I guess my dad's gonna die. And then I was like, we had that moment, and I was like, oh, maybe he won't die. Like maybe he'll recover.
You just don't know.
Yeah. And the nurse, they kind of came in and they're like, "Okay, well, his lungs are like this and like it's causing his kidney to fail. So in order to like," they basically, I mean, like I could go on a rant about how it's like, wow, what a medical team. But like when the doctors and the nurses are like, "You know, it's kind of up to him." And I'm like, what?
Wait, what's up to him to
Like he's got to like, his body just has to get better. So it's like they basically were like, he's got to want to live. And I'm like, that's your medical, that's what you can do medically is tell me that he's got to want it. And also it was at like a St. Joseph's hospital. And I am now remembering that I wanted to do a bit about like, but I never did, just about how like, yeah, I don't want my loved ones in a hospital where the main form of care is prayer. Like, it's like, that's good. Pray. I don't
Nothing wrong with that.
Believe in that. But it's like, I want science. I don't want God's love plugged into my arm. I want the fucking whatever juice I need to come back. He like woke up and I was like, your lungs aren't doing good. And, your kidney is not doing great. But as I was there, like his oxygen numbers started going back up. And they're like, they're like, this is good. He's like getting better. Like his oxygen they're like, this is the best it's been in days.
Was he conscious before he walked? Like, I know when he became conscious when you were there, did he have moments of consciousness prior to that?
They said that he had been pretty much fully unconscious for like the past 2 days. And and because his stuff is just like slowly declining, they kind of were like, he's probably not coming back.
And then you came there and it got boosted up.
Yeah.
So does that give you any kind of...
I'm God? Yeah. No, I'm kidding.
I'm just saying back to, okay, so when they were saying, like, I understand the thought of like how would a medical community say he has to want it.
Yeah, but then I mean, you hear those stories of people like coming back from things that like, stage 4 this, or like, we definitely, like, the doctors didn't think I'd make a recovery. I was medically dead on the table. And like, I wouldn't have thought that like me not being in anyone's life, which could have an impact like that. But, they say things like that and you go like, oh, maybe this is a weight lifted off his heart. And
I mean, I would, unless he's a zombie, I would have a hard time thinking even like if back to their studies saying he was acknowledging what you were saying.
Yeah.
He had to have had some kind of weight on his shoulders probably for his whole life, let alone in his deathbed.
Yeah. I also can now, like, I had way more empathy and understanding for like his position as a human, even though, I maintain he made fucked up choices. It's not, it's easy to say that was fucked up, but also people make choices that they think are the right choice at the right time. That like, and I understand being like, actually, maybe I'm such a fuck up. It's better for me to not be in someone's life. That someone just happened to be his kids, which I don't think is ever the right move. But like, I also like found empathy in that, like, wow, he must have really not felt good about himself to really feel the best choice was to be like, let me just get out of this. Let me just like, it's better if I'm just gone, which just all dumped on me after he like fully like passed away.
What, these contemplations?
Yeah. Well, just these like realizations and all this like empathy.
How much of that is the thought? Cause I mean, that's a fucking shitty situation to think that your father doesn't want to be in your life. Or maybe not, whatever his reason was, doesn't want your I don't know. But like, that's gotta feel shitty on you thinking, why doesn't he love? Like, there's the love question. Like, what am I not this or that?
Yeah, I mean, even though like I can, I do therapy. I'm fucking. I do self work, and I can like I can logically accept that like I'm not unlovable because one man was made bad choices. It seeps into your existence, and it like took me a long time to realize behaviors I had in relationships were like, I have severe abandonment issues. And it's like, oh, actually I do have like terrible self-worth. I've worked on it exponentially, but like there's moments where it still like flares up of like irrational, like I'll have irrational fears like in relationships. And it's because I'm like, because of him. It's very hard to make someone who hasn't experienced like that understand too. Like I've had trouble with partners where it's like, it's not their responsibility. I know it's like my triggers. I understand that it's like, this is my thing and I have to work through it, but I also have to communicate that it happens. And people will take it very personally that like, I will have a reaction of like, well, you like my like deep brain is like, they're going to leave you. Everyone leaves you. And that can be like hurtful to someone who loves you. It's very hard to explain that to someone who has a good relationship with their dad. That you're like, do you know the guy that like you still just call to like when you have a bad day because he will love you no matter what? That guy left me in a restaurant. Like, the guy that's the one person that's supposed to always be there wasn't there. So why should I believe this person I've just met? And it's ongoing and you never really get rid of it. You just like learn to notice it and hopefully calm yourself down before you actually like spiral and let it like cause you to make bad decisions.
So is that what you do?
Yeah, like I'll have like things that trigger my abandonment. And if I'm meditating regularly and like journaling and being my like healthiest self, which spoiler alert, I am not always doing that, I can like catch it and go, okay, I know I'm being triggered, and just like in my brain be like, I'm having a false response out of fear because of something else that happened. But like if I'm not being healthy, it's like a minor criticism from my partner, and I'm like fight or flight, fucking freeze, crazy. Like I have okay, and then I'll have like a shame spiral and like I have to get out of here and like sob, and it looks crazy.
Yeah, but your awareness is next level. You know, I mean, that you're very direct and acknowledging everything you just said. That's got to be a big step comparative to where some people are, right?
They don't even know that that's what's happening. Oh yeah.